Hello and welcome to another Just Roll With It review, where today Sam and I are continuing part 3 of our top 100 for 2022. So this is numbers 80 through 71. And without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off with my number 80. Starting off with my number 80, we've got Shadows of Brimstone. What? What? Did I look at the right list? I think I did look at the right list. Alright, well, carry on. Feel free to describe it in as much detail as you want, because I don't have to now. We've had an exact crossover.
So, Shadows of Brimstone is basically a game of, I don't know, I think it comes with like 10 scenarios in the book. And you basically either have a pre-laid out map, or you procedurally build it with cards. And basically all you'll be doing is you'll be going into rooms and encountering various enemies. You'll get different cards which represent like weapons or various like equipment and things like that. And rolling dice to attack the monsters. And then there will be a set objective for the different scenarios that you'll have to go to. It's kind of like, it's generally kind of a campaign scenario game. It's a scenario.
Yeah.
So it's got the setup scenarios that you're going through, and basically everything that you need is inside of there. And there can be a campaign as well in which you basically go to the town in between the different scenarios. So the town will have like different equipment you can buy, or you can heal like your sanity and physical ailments and things like that. I haven't really had a whole lot of experience with playing the campaign, which is something I want to play, which could move it up. But yeah, I like the game.
My number 80 is also Shadows of Brimstone. I can't believe we had an exact direct crossover. I feel like you didn't sell the theme enough. So one of my favorite things about this game is actually the theme. I love the PC game, the video game Hunt Showdown, and this is like Hunt Showdown, the board game. Though I think maybe this came out early. I don't know. The point is, the theme of Shadows of Brimstone is basically a mining town in the Old West. Is mining as a mining town does. And they basically unleash there's like this thing called Darkstone that has this like Lovecraftian, like otherworldly properties that can like mutate you and things. And it's like a portal to hell kind of thing. And so they open up these portals to other worlds that things that start streaming in. So like every scenario, or pretty much every scenario that I'm aware of, starts with you, dungeon crawling into like mine shafts and things. So that's what all the map tiles are. And then eventually, in most of the scenarios, or ones that we've played, you find the way that you can get to the other world, which could be like some like ancient alien city, or a jungle filled with snake people, different things like that. And then there's usually some sort of objective or like boss or something that you have to beat at the end of that. But this one, for me, so I owned this game originally and then sold it to Sam, and I'm a little sad about it. Again, because like I discovered Hunt Showdown later, but I really, really, really like the theme of this game. Mm-hmm. The Old West is fun. I already like Old West stuff, and then adding monsters and Lovecraft and Eldritch Abominations into that is like, I like that a lot. The thing I don't love is sometimes it gets a little bogged down in the mechanics, in the die rolling, in the number crunching, and sometimes I feel like that maybe like interrupts the theme a little bit, where like the theme is really strong, but at times you get bogged down into like rolling a bunch of d6s for things. So I also would like to play a campaign of it, like a real campaign, because similar to something like Gloomhaven, yeah, you can play it as a singular scenario, but I think you're missing a lot of the enjoyment of the upgrading, of the different things like that. Because one of the really cool things that like we never really did was with the Darkstone, so you can find and collect Darkstone, you can only carry so much of it. When you're in town, you can roll basically to see if it mutates you, and there's like positive and negative mutations. And you can end up with like another like tentacle arm, and there's like goofy stuff like that. That the Darkstone like can mutate your character and like corrupt them, which is cool. And I will say most of the characters seem to play pretty uniquely. Like specifically the one I always want to play as is a guy who gets like a cardboard 6-shooter like template. So it has it's like a cylinder of a revolver, and you can get different ammo types. So there's like Hellfire ammo, and I can't remember the other ones.
I think there's like Ricochet and things like that.
There's like different ammo, and so you can load different bullets into your cylinder, and then like fire them to do different types of damage and stuff, which is cool. But yeah, we should play this one again. I think it's tough just because it's a lot of components and things. It suffers similar to something like Gloomhaven or whatever, where like it's just a lot of stuff. And so if you're gonna play it, you really have to like. We're playing this, and it's probably gonna be like 3-4 hours.
It's like this wide.
Yeah, it's a coffin box. And any of those miniature games, it's very expensive. But yeah, no, it's cool. We should play it. I can't believe we had an exact same spot. I kind of felt bad, but now it's exactly the same. Something I was going to say. Oh, the other kind of neat thing is it comes with a soundtrack. It comes with its own soundtrack, which I've never seen a board game do, which is kind of neat. Yeah. Anything else to say about Shadows of Brimstone? Shadows of Brimstone, number 80.
Following up with that, we've got number 79. So this one for me is Fallout Shelter, the board game. So this is a pretty simple worker placement. It comes in like a metal tin, and it's pretty small, so it's a nice like travel size worker placement. And basically all you're doing is you have a layout of cards for like your elevator, and you're building up a vault. So you have different rooms that you can purchase, and you're building up resources, and finding ways to get victory points from that. Something I'm missing from that.
Well, the gimmick is like, so for however many players, that's how many levels deep the Fallout Shelter is. And so like, you could be like layer 1, I could be like layer 2, and then somebody else could be layer 3. And then, so you're each building buildings into your own layer that have like action spaces. So you start with like generic action spaces at the top, and then you can build new rooms in your layer, and someone can go and pay you to use one of your rooms. That's like the kind of unique gimmick, is that someone can pay you to use your room. And then the other gimmick is at the end of like every round, I don't remember exactly when it is, it's been a little bit since we played this one, but at the end of like every round, you'll roll for like the AI to cause damage to different rooms, like monsters will spawn.
Yeah.
And you roll, is it 2 dice? Yeah, because there's 12. You roll 2 dice, and then it's like on a 1 or a 12 result, something like that, nothing happens, or 11 or 12. I don't know. There's a couple numbers where like nothing will happen, but on any other number, you count, like you like look at the because you have the elevator, which is like right in the middle, and then it like moves out from your elevator when you build buildings, and all of those are basically numbered, and so you can end up having things like spawn into your different areas that basically block off your action spaces, and then they count as negative victory points at the end of the game if you haven't killed them. So you can go through and exterminate them, and they come in these cool little transparent cards. It's goofy, but I like it. So you can like lay them over top of the cards, and you can still see what's underneath them. Yeah, for being based on a mobile game, it's pretty good. It doesn't really have a lot to do with the mobile game, other than like the look of it and that you're building a Fallout Shelter. But really nice components, like all the. That's the other cool thing is like your workers. You can give them special, like the special system from Fallout. Could not tell you what all of them stand for, but all the different like. What is it? Like S is like survival, perception. It's an acronym, but you can give them different specifications, and then they'll produce like extra on locations that have that. Like they have a P, and, like, and you have the P specialty. Some of them do require it, but that's kind of fun. And they have all these nice little bobblehead miniatures for them, which like didn't have to. It's a really cheap, like pretty simple game, but
I would say it's like it's a nice simple game, and it's like travel size. So like that way
it's travel size, and it doesn't take up a lot of room because we played it on like a hotel table, no problem. It does not take up a lot of space, and it's pretty quick. It's got decent production value, and it's a decent little worker placement. So yeah. my 79 is Star Wars Legion. This is by far the lowest of all of the Star Wars Fantasy Flight games. Or do we have to say Atomic Mass Games now? Atomic Mass Games, boo. This is definitely the lowest, so like the other ones would be like X-Wing, Armada, I mean even like Imperial Assault. I actually don't know if that even showed up on my list. I don't remember.
I think it probably
did. We should really play a campaign of that too, because I think it might be better. Anyway, Star Wars Legion is basically the Star Wars version of Warhammer. It's, you buy kits with sprues, you cut them out, you glue them together, you paint them if you want to, and you assemble your army.
With sprues now.
With sprues now. They didn't used to have sprues, but they got higher detail, whatever, I don't know. Anyway, so you assemble your army, usually, now they have Clone Wars stuff, but it was originally just like Rebels and Imperials. And you go to a certain amount of points, like a lot of the other Fantasy Flight Star Wars games, everything is like pointed, and so you decide ahead of time, are we going to go do 600 point game, 1200 point game, whatever. You both build your armies, you play them on a field, there's like different objectives and things, but for the most part you're basically just moving your different characters around, rolling dice, they each have different actions. Kind of the cool thing, I'm sure this isn't the first game to do this. I think they tried to do this with Battle. What's the fantasy one that they had? That's also like a what? Rune Wars. Thank you. I think they did a similar thing with Rune Wars, so maybe it's kind of a Fantasy Flight thing. I don't know. I've never played Warhammer, so maybe Warhammer does this too. But every unit of soldiers that you have has like a leader unit, and you move the leader unit, and then all the other units follow. And the units in there, aside from being special units, which you can like pay extra to put in like a flamethrower unit, that has like a special weapon that he can roll dice for. But when you just play like a regular standard unit of troops, like stormtroopers, they have a leader, and I think it's like 5 or 6. It depends, I guess, on the unit, but they have a few just other units around the leader, and everything has to move in cohesion, so they have to be like close to the leader. And then as they take damage, you remove the pieces in the group, and then once only the leader is left, then the leader is basically the last hit point, and then they get killed. But it's kind of cool. It's a nice way of tracking damage. And it like shrinks your die pool and things like that. It makes sense. There's also there's the like stress mechanic, which is kind of interesting. So like even if you don't hit them, you can still deal like stress damage. And if a unit gets, like, the fewer units there are in a unit, like, their stress threshold is lower, and so then they can panic and start to, like, run away and things. Which is kind of interesting. But the big reason this one's pretty low is just, to me, of all the Star Wars games, it requires the most, like, overhead. Like X-Wing, very easy to get to the table. You can do 100 points, 200 points, whatever you want. Throw it together, done. Legion, there's a lot more moving parts. It's not as portable because you have all the units from a unit, like the individual units in the unit that you have to would have to transport somewhere. I think it's probably more. I mean, it's definitely more expensive than even X-Wing to get into, just because just a box of a couple units of Rebel Troopers is like $30. So it gets really expensive. I don't know. I like the other ones, obviously, are much higher on the list. This definitely has the potential to go up, or it could go down, to be honest, just because we haven't really played it. We played it when we first got it, and then I haven't really had any desire to buy any new stuff for it. It's just, I don't know, it's just a lot to get it to the table. And I also think you kind of need to paint them, and you kind of need to get terrain and things. I feel like you have to invest a lot into time and money into making it a fun game. Whereas X-Wing, they're all painted. You just buy the units, and yeah, they're expensive, but they're painted, they're pre-assembled. You throw them on the field, you pick a few that you like, and you pick some cards for them, and you're done. Whereas Legion, I think there's just a lot more overhead and more if you're into Star Wars and you're into Warhammer, it's probably the best game ever. but I don't like a game where I have to like assemble everything, paint everything, find cool terrain, or make cool terrain out of things just to make the game like thematic and enjoyable. So
Mine's going to be pretty close on here too. I think it's within these next 10. And yeah.
anything to is that pretty much how you feel?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So I struggle with this one because I want to like it. I kind of want to get some of the Clone Wars stuff. But I'm not gonna buy any more stuff for it unless we actually like start playing it again and decide like this is a fun game that we want to keep doing.
Take some time to build some terrain.
Yeah. Yep. Well, Brad and Don have to exist for that to happen. So yeah. My 79.
Number 78 for me is going to be Captain Sonar. So this is basically a head-to-head battle between two submarine crews. So you'll split up from 2 to 8 people, which basically you only want to play with 8 people generally. But you'll split up 2 to 8 people between 2 teams, and there's 4 different positions that you can take on each submarine. There's the captain, the first mate, the radio operator, and like armament person or no, that's
Engineer.
Yeah, engineer. There we go. And they each have a different thing that they're doing on that submarine. And basically, the entire goal of each submarine is to shoot the other submarine or blow them up in any way possible. Basically, because there's mines as well. And yeah, so you're trying to find the other submarine's position. So the captain will be telling the rest of their crew like what direction they're going. The first mate will be like taking care of the different abilities that they have. The radio operator will be listening to the opposite team's captain and listening to where they're moving and writing it down on a clear piece, like a clear pad that they put over top of a map so that they can move it around to figure out the position of the opposing submarine. And then the engineer will be basically marking off things that cancel out what abilities they can use based off of what direction they're moving. So there's 4 boxes like for each direction with a bunch of different symbols in them that represent like different of the different attacks and things that can be used, and they'll be crossing those out to stop you from being able to use those until you connect like colored lines between like 4 of them. I think it like usually is.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're basically trying to deal 4 total damage to the opposing submarine. This ended up a little bit lower for me because I don't know. It's a game.
It's a game. Yeah, I have a feeling like was it just because you felt like it wouldn't get played as much?
I mean, that's definitely one reason. Yeah, it doesn't get played as much, just because of the fact that if you play with less than 8 people, there's the turn by turns. Like
turn by turn, or you have to double up
yeah.
rolls if you want to play real time. Because I don't know if you explicitly said this, but the game is played in real time. So both sides are shouting orders, and you can go as fast as your first mate, and your engineer can keep up, basically. And then, again, those radio operators are listening to each other's captains and trying to figure out where, because everyone has the same map of like a bunch of islands, and so you're trying to figure out like where they could fit in those islands, because you can never double back on yourself, and you can never, and then there's other various ways that you can like try to learn the position. Like there's some gadgets that you can activate as the engineer that'll allow you to like have them tell you like a truth and a lie about where they are, like coordinates. But yeah, this one's quite a bit higher on my list. But I did have the thought about like putting it lower because it requires 8 people, but I decided that's not necessarily like the game's fault, and so I would like put it high anyway. I really feel like this game is like it's like very streamlined and simple. I mean, you need 8 people, but like the rule set's very simple. Basically, everything does 1 damage unless it's a direct hit, and then it does 2.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of things like that are pretty simple. Like, things are laid out pretty well, and as long as everybody understands their role, the games aren't terribly long. But I don't know. I really like it. It's higher on my list, but we'll get there eventually.
I don't know. Oh, it also feels like a game that I generally do want to play, like, just occasionally, not necessarily, like...
Well, the good thing is you don't get a choice about that,
There you
because
go.
you basically need 8 people to play it, and that's extremely rare, so...
Yeah, Captain Sonar.
Shoot. I forgot mine. Oh yeah, never mind. I remember now. We'll leave all that in. Ethnos is my number 78.
Yes.
So Ethnos is kind of a strange game. You're basically, you start the game, and you have this map in front of you that has like different colored territories. And it's an area control game, but the way that you place your influence tokens and like take control of areas is basically you are going to be taking turns. On your turn, you can either take one of the cards available, or you can play a set of cards to place an influence on a place. And so the way it works is the cards are all different fantasy races. So there's like wizards and mermen and trolls and goblins and things. And you play with not all of them. You mix a certain amount in randomly. And each race has its own unique ability that it gets to use under certain circumstances. So you're taking cards, and at the beginning of the game, there's just a certain amount of cards that are available to take from. But then, the way it works is when someone plays down their cards, they lose their cards, all but the leader, right? I think you get to keep them. Or no, do you lose them all?
You keep all the cards that you used. It's just the rest that were in your hand.
That's my apologies, yeah.
Yeah.
So, when you play down a set, you lose anything else that's in your hand that wasn't able to make it into that set. And then you put down the set in front of you, and you can play, the way the sets work is, so I guess it's kind of a set collection game in a way. It is. You play either all the same color of card, so all the different races have all the colors represented, in order to play that color into a specific area, or all the same race, regardless of color. You also choose one card to be your top card, and that is considered your leader, and that's the ability that you get to use. So if you have like a red wizard and then a bunch of red other stuff, and you have like 4 of them, your red wizard's on top, and they are the one that you get to use the ability from. And then, like Sam said, any other cards that aren't in that set of red cards, I guess, we're going with that, you would discard, and those would now be available for other people to take. So there's definitely like a kind of a push your luck element to it, where you're trying to get maybe certain colors or certain leaders in order to place in a certain area, because the color does have to match like the territory you play into. But maybe you're also getting other good cards too, and then you have to decide like, oh, I'm going to place these down, and then all those other cards that maybe were really good or other people definitely wanted, because like there's some of that too. Like you could take cards other people are like, you know, Sam keeps taking wizards. I can start just taking wizards too, but you're gonna have to discard those, and then those are available. So yeah, you're placing influence on the board. So the way it works is it's 3 ages. There's a card mixed into the deck somewhere in like the bottom third, I think it is. And once that gets flipped over, that ends the first age. You score points on the board based on majority. So each territory scores differently. There's tiles you put out to determine how many points they get in each age. So like first age, second age, third age, they'll score different amounts of points. So it may score, nothing, like 1 or 2 points in the first age, but you get your influence there in the first age, and you start stacking it up, and then maybe later in the second or third, it scores like 5 or 8 points. It starts scoring a lot more and becomes more hotly contested, so that's kind of cool. The different abilities of the different races are fun. I think that's what really makes the game interesting, is playing that leader card and doing the different things. Like, some of them let you like move up on a board to get like bonus like card draws and things, and there's some that let you like, what is it, the hobbits? What do the hobbits do? There's a bunch of them. There's just a lot of them, and they're not very good, but you can't
use them as a leader or something. Yeah,
that's what it is, I think. But yeah, so you go through the 3 ages, and then you also get to score your sets of cards that you played down to place your influence. So like in order to place an influence, you'll usually have to have like one more card than you have influence kind of thing in the area. So that as part of that is like just the cost that you play. But you want to have big sets of cards anyway, because the larger the set, the more points it's worth at the end of the age. So it's surprisingly good. I got this one for like $30 or something. It's similar to something like Awari. I've heard it compared to that. It is definitely different, like obviously like the leader powers and like how you're playing cards, but the similarity of like getting certain colors to play influence is definitely there. But I like it. I kind of wish that they would make like a small card expansion that's just like more races, because this is something that's like very easily expandable and could be really cheap and like not expensive. I don't think they will, but I don't know if this game is super popular, but.
Yeah, I like it a lot too, and I honestly have to say that they have a lot of races already, even to begin with, because like that's one reason.
I'm just saying it's a situation where you could just add a bunch more fantasy races.
Like we haven't even played most of them already. I think, well, not most of them.
You play with a good majority of them though when you do play.
Yeah,
but
we haven't played with all of them. I know there's definitely some that we haven't played with yet. So
yeah. So, and that and like the random like victory point amounts for the different territories is a good, like, it's not always the same. The board is not always the same victory point wise, because some things are harder to get than others and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, I liked it. I was surprised how much I liked it.
So my number 77 is going to be a crossover with Jordan's, which is Star Wars Legion. So I don't really need to explain it too much. Yeah, I definitely think that we need to take some time to do some training or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if there's really anything else to add. It is a game. It is an expensive game.
Miniature game, yeah. Expensive miniature game.
Yes. Too many games, too little time.
Yeah. And like, yes, I guess just generally it's like the less streamlined, I feel like, of all of them. Like, especially X-Wing. I feel like X-Wing is probably one of the most.
X-Wing's pretty good.
Yeah.
Even first edition was not terrible. And it like you only have like 3 to 4 ships in most scenarios. So like I don't know, there's just less to deal with. And even like Armada is probably like, I don't know, would you say Armada's heavier or Legion?
I don't know.
Legion, I don't know if it's necessarily heavy. It's just there's a lot of rules overhead. Mm-hmm. Like there's just a lot of keywords, a lot of tokens, a lot of like different ways things interact. Whereas like Armada and X-Wing are very much, these are ship battles. Things pretty much interact the way you expect. Like there's some slight nuances and things like fiddly bits, but like for the most part, there's not like a billion tokens for either of them. Especially second edition of X-Wing. But like Armada, there's not like a ton of tokens for. And all the ships use like the same actions and things like that, and just different quantities. Whereas Legion, I feel like, is the most like, there's just a lot, and like as you introduce new expansions, they keep adding keywords and adding tokens, and they do different things. And some of them are discarded, and some of them are held on to, and so there's that kind of stuff. And like, so I would feel like that's probably also a thing that kind of pushes me away. Not only is it like the one that you have to put the most effort into, like painting things, assembling things, getting terrain and things to make it an interesting game, because you do have to provide terrain. Like that's actually like basically part of the game is like any of those Warhammer. Again, anyone who plays Warhammer, this probably sounds silly, but like you have to like make terrain or buy terrain, or your game is going to be really boring and lame. Like just playing with like the barricades that it comes with is super boring. But one thing I was really bummed about is, for as much as you pay for the core set of this game, and I don't think they've changed this at all, you do not get a copy of the rules reference. You get a link to the rules reference and the learn to play rules. And I feel like that's a huge misstep. I know that the rule reference changes all the time, and yes, you can go online and you can get the PDF and you can print it off, but I don't know, just having like a purchasable rules reference, like every like few major updates that they do to the rules reference or something that you could just buy the rules reference would be really nice. I feel like that could get me to play the game more, because you on your phone searching for keywords in the rules reference is not a good experience, because there's like 500 instances of whatever you're searching for, and you're like, this would be so much easier if it was a physical book with a glossary I could flip through. Anyway, so I feel like that would help a lot.
Yeah.
if you could physically have a nice printed version of the rules reference, even though it changes. I'm not paying competitive. I don't care if it changes all that much. It doesn't matter to me, but I think I'm just not a Warhammer person. I'm just not a huge Wargamer person. I feel like that has to be your hobby. If you're into that, that is your only hobby, is wargaming. You can't have any other hobby, because it's super expensive and super time consuming. But, yeah. I'm glad yours was also close, because I also felt guilty about this, and I was like, man, I feel like I'm doing them dirty, because, like, so basically all the other Star Wars games, except maybe Imperial Assault, are, like, pretty high on the list, like, very high, and, poor Legion's just hanging out here at the bottom, but... Alright, so my number is Baron Park, which it's a little bit lower, mostly because it's a very light game, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not putting it low because it's a bad thing, but it is a good, like, it's nice, it's relaxing, and it's easy. This game basically is where you're building your own bear park, so like a zoo, exclusively filled with bears for some reason. Don't understand it myself, but it is the way that it is. And this is basically like a tile laying game. So there's you start with your basic little park tile that has your entrance, and there's all these different icons. There's like a white cement mixer, there's like an orange excavator, there's like a green wheelbarrow, and like a construction crew, like some guys, and a place where a stone statue can go. And so the different tiles all have like different configurations of these. So the way it works is when you start the game, you'll have like a couple of little green tiles. So the green tiles are like the lowest value, and then the white tiles with the cement mixer are like second highest, and then the orange tiles with the excavator are like highest value tiles that have like the most victory points and things. Biggest enclosures, most awkward shapes, that's what the orange ones are. So when you start out, you have like a green tile, and on your turn, you can basically place a tile, and then for every icon you cover up, you can take one tile that matches the color of icon. So like if you cover a couple green spaces, you can take some green pieces. If you cover an orange space, you can take an orange one. And so everyone is taking turns just playing one tile, and then getting all the tiles that they cover, or all the icons that they cover. If you cover the construction crew, you can get another like map tile for your park, and you can get up to 4 of those. And the game ends when somebody completely fills all 4 of their tiles, and then you count up points. The points are really easy because it's all just printed on the pieces. Again, like the big orange ones are usually worth like 7 to 9 points, but it changes. Definitely recommend you play with like the optional like goal tiles variant, where you get different like basically like achievements. Like if you have 6 green tiles adjacent to each other, then you can take that. And there's 3 of each of them, and the way it works with a lot of things in the game is the most points go to the first person to do something, and then it's slightly less points, but somebody else can do it, and then it's slightly less points, and somebody else can do it. So, which is fun. All the like white enclosures start that way, where like the highest value one is the first one. So if you're the first to place a polar bear, well, you're going to get like 1 more point than the person who's second to place a polar bear, which I like. And yeah, it's very simple. It's very straightforward. I was actually surprised at how like just like dead simple the game is. Not in a bad way. Like it works really well, and it's super easy to teach people. So, Baron Park. Where's this one on your list?
No.
Oh,
we'll find out.
but like I said, I think it could go up. I want to play the expansion because it looks cool. But a lot of the like simpler games tend to kind of float around the bottom of the list. The overly complicated and the simple games float around at the bottom of the list, and it's not because I hate them. It's just like I don't know.
So we got 76 next. So mine is going to be Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. So this can be considered kind of a theoretical game. It is a game, but basically
so-called game.
There's a map and like a newspaper and a directory basically the newspaper and a case book for each like individual case. So a case will have the notes for it, and then a newspaper that comes with it for that date. And all you basically be doing is you read like the beginning of the case. It like goes through what you're looking into as Sherlock Holmes, of course, investigating a mystery. And you read through that, and it'll usually give you like some general information of maybe you should go here to do this. And you'll just look at the map, and it'll have different numbered locations in different sections. So then you'll go to the number in the section, and you'll look that up in the casebook, and if it's in there, then you can go to that location, and you'll read through it, and it'll give you more information so you can go to the next location that you want to go to. And basically the entire game is you as a group, if you're playing in a group, technically I guess you can play it as solo as well. You'll decide what locations you're going to, and then you'll look into that location. And basically at the end of the game, once you've like finished the story, you'll tally up how many different places you went to, and you'll compare it to how many places Sherlock went to, which is usually a ridiculously low number for Sherlock. And that's kind of how you score the game, is like if you used like at Sherlock's level, like you used like two locations, then you're as good as Sherlock. And then if you like for each additional one, I think it has like different like labels for like how well you did.
Yeah.
And like the directory will have all the names in it, which is kind of cool, like thematic. Like you have an actual directory of like different names with different locations for things. And the newspaper will sometimes have like even like side quest sort of things. Mm-hmm. So like just like random mysteries that you can solve within the mystery, things like that. This one I think went a little bit lower just because now I've played Bureau of Investigation. I honestly think Bureau of Investigation is a much better version of it. I still don't think this is bad, which is why it's still on my top 100. But yeah, I also need to play it again because we played like one of them. And I'd like to play some different cases, and yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't even include this one. So when games were like basically the same game, I would just choose one, and I chose Bureau of Investigation. And it is quite a bit higher, I think, somewhere in the middle, upper half. Just because it is basically the same, but there's just those slight little tweaks to the formula that I personally think are better. Mm-hmm. But by no means a bad game. I enjoy it. It's good. Anyway. Mine is also a crime-solving game, but not this one, and not Bureau of Investigation. It is Chronicles of Crime. So this one was different enough that it did get included in the list. And this is going to be an app-driven game, which, the occasional app-driven game is good, and this one actually kind of justifies it because I don't really know how you would do this. There are some things that just aren't really possible without an app, and so for those people who are upset by app games, like this game just couldn't exist. There'd be really no way to do it in board game form, but basically the way it works is you have, you choose a case, there's a whole bunch of cases, there's a bunch of them that are just free, which is cool, like on the app, like you can buy the base game and there's like 5 or something, like I think they're free. Some of them are free, I believe, not all of them. But there's like a bunch that you don't even need to buy any more physical content, and you can just download either the free or the paid ones and just play with the base game, which is cool. I like when games do that. But you're basically going to choose a scenario on the app, which is going to be some sort of crime you're solving. You're going to put out this big board that has like different, like there's like a forensic scientist, a psychologist, like different, like resources that you have available to you to like interview about evidence and things. And then usually like a series of like people you can talk to, which are all cards, and then like locations you can go to. And the sort of neat thing is that this is entirely driven by QR codes. So when you want to talk to someone at a location, you just scan their card. So the cards are basically just placeholders for the QR codes. And then you interact with that person. You can have different like dialogue options and things within the app. And then when you investigate a crime scene, you actually get like a 3D version of the crime scene that you can actually look around with your iPad or whatever you use, or swipe around if you don't have a gyroscope, and you're looking for clues. And so when you think you found something, like if you see a little, like a bloody knife under a bush, you take that card out of the deck and you scan it, and the app will tell you whether or not like that's important. And then if it is important, you can hold on to that, and then you could go to the forensic department and you could say, here, I have this bloody knife. Tell me who's like what type of blood. Oh, it's A positive. Different things like that. And so that's where like the cleverness comes from, is like you're looking at these crime scenes, you're trying to really analyze them, see if there's anything that you could scan that's part of the deck of cards that are evidence, and then you put those in a pile, and then you can go to the different experts and be like, hey, tell me about this, or like the psychologist is kind of interesting too. You can like psychologically profile people, and they'll tell you like, nah, this guy probably didn't do it, like he's not the type, like I did some digging on him, kind of thing, which is cool. And so there's a lot of that, like you really have to fill in the gaps and like really start to like think outside the box and like make those connections and talk to the right people and show them like, hey, here's this thing, like because like the one that we did, we need to play more, as with most things. The one that we did was we were like really stuck, and there are hints in the game, and it is kind of timed. They give you quite a bit of time, but technically like your boss will like get on your case if you're taking too long. But we made it just under the wire. There was like a child kidnapping ring that we discovered, which is kind of cool. They're sort of like at least some of them are like interconnected, and then so like you can play one, and that's like the introduction, and then it carries over like the same characters and things, which is cool. So it's a good app integration, and there's like a ton more you can buy. So they started a series where there's like super futuristic 1400s. I forget what the other one is. 1800s, I think. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
Either way, they started a series of, I forget what it's called, but they have like different points in history. I want to get the 1400 one. That one sounds cool. You get like a dog. Is like your like investigate. He can like, you can give him smells of things, and he'll like go find them. But that's cool too. And that's again all just with like, it's relatively cheap. You can get it for. So yeah.
Definitely playing more than hopefully.
Yes. So it's another one of those things where it's long. Not in a bad way. It's just like, yeah, it's harder to just be like, yes, this. You have to be kind of in the right mood for games like that, because you really do have to like think and be on your toes. But yeah, good game.
Alright, we're at the 3/4 mark. So number 75. For me, this is going to be Unmatched, which I believe we did in the last video on your top 100. And I'll just kind of generally like sort of go over it, but like you can watch that video if you need more. It's just basically you play as different fictional characters, book characters, and you have a deck of cards that's set for each different character, so that's themed around them, with attack, a hybrid between attack and defense, and then there's also the action cards, whatever they're called. Plots, I think, or something.
I think so. I can never remember. They're yellow.
So it's like those four different types of cards, and they're all just in a deck of cards, and you'll be moving around a board, trying to take out the other character, and like you can have like pretty much any character. And yeah,
as long as it's a royalty-free character,
yes.
Or Marvel now, I guess.
It's a very simple and pretty random game. Of course, you're just playing with a deck of cards, and yes, there's strategy to it, yeah, because you're moving around and trying to attack. And yeah, I enjoy it.
I don't really have anything to add because we already did it, so. Just forgot mine again. Oh, no, I didn't. Why did I say that? That's a lie. Mine is Aeon's End. This one, so I bought the first 2 waves of content, so I have a decent amount of stuff, and then the Legacy of Gravehold, which I have yet to open. Healthy. And I quite enjoyed it. So it's similar to something like Sentinels of the Multiverse, if you played that, where it's a cooperative deck builder. Not that Sentinels is a deck builder. That's one of the main differences. Is you don't build your deck in Sentinels. You just are given a deck. This one you start with a very basic deck of cards. You have like basically gems, which are your money, or crystals, whatever they're called, which are like your money for buying cards. You have spells, which you can put into different slots in order to play them to do basically damage to the boss. And then you also have artifacts, which do various other things. It's like the other category. So when you start out, you start with, I think, 10 cards, and you'll draw 5 of them, and that'll be your hand. And you take turns. One of the sort of cool things is there's a turn order deck. So based on the number of players, there's a certain number of times that the nemesis, which is basically the boss you're battling, it's kind of a boss battler, how many times they activate, and then each player will activate at least once in a turn, and then sometimes if you have like fewer than I think 4, you'll get like a wild card, and you can choose who, when you draw that, you can choose who goes. But it's kind of a cool way of shaking it up a little bit, it's a little bit more random, but I like the like it could be really bad and the nemesis could go twice in a row, or it could be really good and like you're able to get some spells off early. But yeah, so on your turn, you can basically like buy new spells and things from an offering, and there's like tons of different cards. You never play with all the cards. You choose, I think it's like 4 spells, 3 gems, and 2 relics or something like that. It's a certain number of each that you choose, but you can basically either randomize the cards. It comes with like card randomizers, or you can just choose. And so those are the ones that are available for purchase. You can purchase more gems to get more money to buy better cards, and different things like that. Your characters all have like their own ability, and then you have like an ability you can charge up that takes like a long time, but it's usually like pretty game breaking, like being able to just like prevent somebody from dying. And they all do different things that are pretty powerful. When the nemesis goes, they basically have a deck of cards that you construct. So there's like generic cards that you shuffle in of tiers 1, 2, and 3. And then there's also cards that are unique to the boss. And then those cards will come out, and you can win by either dealing enough damage to kill the boss, or by basically running him out of cards. So once his deck is completely out of cards, you can win that way. Good luck winning that way. But yeah, so you play your turns. Again, you have to play your spells down onto slots. And so everybody has 4 slots. I shouldn't say everybody. Most characters have 4 slots, but usually only the first 2 are, or 2 or 1. No, first 1. Some characters have 2. Anyway, usually only the first slot of your 4 is open and can have spells played into it. But you can basically spend your gems to rotate these like magical things in order to make them cheaper. And then once it's cheap enough for you to buy it, you don't have to get it all the way down, but at the very bottom it's the cheapest it will be. You can then flip it over, and then it's open for it's breaches, that's what they're called. And then you can open the breach. And then your 3rd and 4th one, usually, again, there are exceptions because some of the expansions actually give you like unique ones for different characters, will give you +1 damage, which doesn't sound like a lot, but this is definitely like a chipping kind of game where you're like doing like 2 damage, 2 damage, 2 damage, and then all of a sudden the boss is dead. I quite liked this one, especially when I first got it. I was a little worried that it was going to be very close to Sentinels, but being that you actually construct your deck and like the turn order stuff is a little bit different. However, like I've found that the bosses are really hit or miss. You weren't here, but on our camping trip, Don despises this game because we played it on the camping trip and we fought one of the like newer expansion bosses, and it was like really random. Like the boss would just be like lol die. And it didn't, so like other experiences I've had, the bosses usually have like they're really good power cards come out, and there's basically a timer, so you take a token off every time they go, and then when it's out of tokens, that's when the card activates. But this one like didn't really have that. Like we would specifically go out of our way to make sure we had things to prevent them, and most of them didn't have ways to prevent them, so it was just like take 8 damage, die, lose all your money for a round. Like it was just like super random and not in a fun way, where it was just like, oh, we're just gonna get destroyed by this guy through really no fault of our own. So That was probably just it moved down a lot because of that, because we tried playing the same boss twice and it was like, this is not working, and we just gave up. But like other experiences I've had with primarily just playing the base game have been enjoyable, and I've enjoyed like each boss is kind of a unique challenge. They all have like usually some sort of gimmick. But yeah, I don't know. That last play just kind of like plummeted it a little bit. Still definitely like it, obviously, but I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely like the mechanics of like the breaches, especially where you have like the spells.
That's cool. People say it's really gimmicky, which it kind of is, but I like the gaminess of like trying to open those and deciding which ones to open and when to open them and that stuff.
Pulling your spells out and then using them, that kind of thing. Yeah.
And there usually is a point, like I said, like chipping damage, where you're like really, really weak at the beginning. You can't really do any damage. You're kind of just surviving, and then as your deck gets better, you can start to get rid of cards from your deck. Any cards that do that are like extremely good, because if you can keep that deck lean, at the end of the game, you're just like playing all your spells, because you're just going through your deck so quickly. Which you have that like fun, like I'm powerful now, I'm mighty. I did forget to mention, you do not shuffle your deck. So when your deck runs out, you just take the discard pile and flip it over. So you actually kind of can control the order of cards. Don thinks this is stupid and meaningless. I think it's kind of interesting, but yeah. What was the other thing I was going to add? Oh, I sometimes wish the cards were a little bit more, like, diversified. Because, like, as a card game goes, you basically have the 3 types, and it's like, spells do damage, and sometimes do other things. Artifacts do, like, healing, or, like, letting you remove cards, and then gems give you different amounts of money. There's not a lot of variety in really what the cards do. And there's a heck of a lot of cards. Like, all the expansions add, like, 1 billion cards to play with. And I haven't played with most of them, but, like, in looking at them, a lot of them are like, this one does 2 damage instead of 3. Cool. I don't know. So sometimes I feel like the cards are, like, a little simple, which isn't necessarily a negative thing, because you can have, like, cards that are too complex, and there's too much going on. But, I don't know. It's my 2 cents.
Number 74 for me is Undaunted. So this is somewhat in a similar vein to Unmatched, but definitely different. This is a scenario game, so there's like a bunch of scenarios in the book, and there's actually 2 different versions of it, Normandy and North Africa.
Soon to be like 4 different versions.
True. These 2 are most similar. I feel like the other 2 are going to be more different, but
yeah, because the Russia one is like a campaign, and then the Battle of Britain one is like
planes. Yeah. So there's basically, I think, like 10 scenarios in the book, in the rule book that it comes with, a separate scenario book. Either way, and you lay out, like, I think there's like 16 map tiles that come in the game, double-sided, and you lay them out how it tells you, and then you can play in, at least in the Normandy version, you play as either the Americans or the Germans, and there will be different objectives, so there will be like points that you can get sometimes. I think sometimes there's even like different objectives too, like you have to pin the enemy's riflemen, which basically means that you have to kill the riflemen so that they can't get the objectives that they need to get, things like that. And basically the game is you have a deck of the different characters you have, so there's like riflemen and scouts and things like that, gunners, different military units, and you have a deck of all of the different units, and with also Fog of War cards, which basically don't have any ability on them. And you bid for initiative starting out, so you have your hand of, I believe, like 4 cards?
I think,
4 cards. You bid for initiative, so you each like play a card face down, and you flip it over, and there's going to be a number on it, and whoever has the higher number goes first. And then you'll play your hand of 3 cards to move your units. And Fog of War, as I said, don't have an inherent ability, but you can use scouts to get rid of them, because they're basically just bad cards. They have like a 1 on them for initiative as well, so things like that. So you can get rid of them for initiative if you want, but then you'll probably be going second. And yeah, you'll like move your units to either, if if that's the goal, to take like objective points that have points on them, and it'll usually tell you like a certain number of points that you have to go to, or like taking out the enemy's riflemen, things like that. And basically you just go until one player gets their objective. Yeah, I think it's sort of similar to Unmatched. I mean, it's definitely not the same. And
Sure, I don't know.
I definitely like the Fog of War aspect where you're when you use your scout, it like adds the Fog of War into your deck because you're like exploring more places, which like clutters up your deck with more Fog of War, which then you can use the scouts to get rid of it. And then the like aspect of like playing the your cards represent the life of like the unit, so like because you'll have like a set aside area for all the cards that you don't use of the different units, and you can buy them later. So then those like represent your life that you have. So every time that somebody hits one of your units, so like if somebody hits your rifleman, you have to discard a rifleman card, and it starts by you have to discard from your hand, and then if you don't have one in your hand, you have to discard it from your discard, and then finally if you don't have one in your discard, you discard it from the deck, and then when you completely run out and they hit him one more time, then you have to remove him off of like the playing board.
Yeah, I like this game. It's definitely like lighter as like war games go. It's pretty random because you're rolling dice to see if you hit. I will say definitely played a very important role wrong because we were playing like the snipers in the game are like way better than any other unit because they roll more dice, and I guess it's just more dice. Yeah, you just have a higher chance of hitting. But the way I was playing it is for every hit you got on the dice, you took a damage, whereas I've been informed you do at most 1 damage. So they have a higher chance to hit, but they're still only doing 1 damage. Because we ended up getting in a situation when I played this where I basically lost in 1 turn because the sniper just rolled all successes and did enough damage to kill me. That's not the case, so I would like to play this one again. I think we already... Did we pass it on my list already? We must have.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll have to look. Maybe it didn't end up on the list. I don't know. Point is, I would kind of reevaluate it based on that because I thought it was just so random that you could just kind of lose in the first round. There is definitely still some randomness. Like you can roll poorly and do bad, but it's nice and short and it's very compact and cheap, and so it's a good.
And it's also 2 players specifically.
Yeah. I wonder if they'll ever make like a. That's what I was gonna say. I wonder if they'll ever
like
make like an overlord where you can combine 2 of them or something. Would be kind of interesting.
I also we recently found there's on their website you actually have like the extra scenarios for like the 2 different ones. Like there was Castle Itter and like different things like that you could like download.
Castle Itter and other things. I don't remember. That was
we played the Castle Itter one.
So there's just free scenarios online that you can download for it, which is kind of cool. But yeah, it's a good game. It's a decent game. All right, so my pick is for Wingspan, which is essentially like a tableau, like action selection game where the theme is birds, and so there's all kinds of different birds. There's a huge deck of birds, and you have like your player board is like different environments that birds would reside in. So you have like woodlands, I think like marsh and like field, like prairie. And those are the rows on your board, and that's where you can place birds that live in the different territories, and you have to spend different foods. So there's like worms and fish and vegetation and things for food in order to play your birds out. And then you like get to do those. You get to use the actions of those birds like when you do that row as your action. So like the different rows are different things, and then you get to trigger all of your birds on the row. And so there's a lot of potential for like comboing and things like that. There's these cool little like pastel wooden eggs. I like the wooden eggs. This one's a bit lower. I think it's a solid game. I definitely like to play it again. We only played it like the one time. I think the big thing for me is like the theme doesn't really appeal to me all that much, but I don't think it was a bad game. I do think due to the nature of like the comboing, there are, from what I understand, some kind of like broken, like if you just get lucky and get certain cards, like I think it's the Ravens are really strong. You can like chain those really well and like get a ludicrous amount of points. But I'd like to play this one again. I know a lot of people really like it, so don't take this as a personal offense, but we already talked about this one because I think it was earlier on your list, so.
Number 73 now. For me, this is going to be Camel Up, which specifically the second edition, which I haven't even played the first edition, but so this is basically you're betting on camels. That's pretty much the entirety of the game. So I believe there's like 6 camels. 2 of them are the crazy camels that are going backwards on the track, and the other 4 are all like different colors that are moving forward. Maybe it's 5. I think it might be 7 total. Either way, you've got the camels moving forward, and you can basically, as I said, the entire premise of the game is betting on camels. So you'll be placing bets and like in each round for different things, so like so that you can get more money. And then you can also place like final bets on the different colors
on the outcome
for
of the race,
for the outcome of the race. And the earlier you place your final bets, the more points you get. So like I think the top one is like 5, and if you're like the last person to do it, you might even only get 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's just what's pretty really cool in the second edition is there's like a plastic pyramid, which is entirely unnecessarily, but
it's cardboard in the first one. I disagree on unnecessary.
I mean, I'm not saying that I'm just saying that the pyramid isn't necessarily necessary.
But it's the impartiality of the pyramid.
And then there's like a button on it that lets you like place 1 dice out. Like you can roll them and then place 1 dice out because each of the dice is a different color to represent each of the camels, and then you'll move the camels based on which dice. And I think like a large amount of like it's just a generally like random and like simple game, but it's pretty fun to if you're just like in the mood for that kind of thing. And I think like a really fun part is like the fact that the crazy camels are going backwards, because then you can have the camels going forwards end up on the back of the crazy camels, and then they can start moving both of them back. And you can end up with like some really crazy things at the end. I feel like we've had some where like you'll have like all the camels are getting close, and then you all of a sudden have like everything like change around. They're like suddenly back here, and like I don't know.
Or you'll have like the one that's in back due to some circumstance end up in front.
Yeah.
No, it's fun. It's definitely very random. I don't think this one made it on my list. This was I think another one that was just there, and it easily could have been. This is a good party game. I think it plays up to like 8 people or something ridiculous. And that doesn't really add time or anything, because you're basically just going around and placing bets on camels. And it works really well. It's fun. There's different ways to score points. There's even like some kind of like slight like catch-up mechanics with that.
I think can you do last as well? I think that's another final score.
Yeah, you can do
last. Yeah.
We can do last place and then first place for the final outcomes, and then there's like the coins and stuff I think that you get for like there's some sort of like if you do poorly you get like I don't know. But yeah, it works really well, and it's super easy to teach people. It's another one like we played it at Christmas and stuff with friends and stuff, and it goes really well because it's really easy for people, and you're betting on camels. Like which one do you think is going to win? Bet on that one. Like. So, yeah.
I kind of like the theme, I think, at the very least. Like, it's a weird theme, but at the same time, I like it.
It works, and I like the pyramid. Yeah, it's kind of unnecessary, but it's just randomly choosing a die, and it's cool, and it sits in the middle. Oh, yeah, I guess we didn't even mention, the board actually has, like, pieces that pop up when you unfold the board, so it has, like, a palm tree. Again, unnecessary, but it's like a pop-up book, and it looks really cool. It helps a lot, I think. So, like, presentation is 9/10 of the law, I think is what they say. That's the pull quote on the second edition box. My 73 pick is Nations. So this is a slightly less well-known one. I think it's kind of just primarily in the UK. I found it used at a game store. And this is going to be sort of a civilization game. It has a civilization theme. But essentially the way it works, this is also sort of a tableau building game. Is you're going to start with a certain number of workers, you're going to be playing as a certain nation, and you will go through four like major periods of civilization, like time periods, starting in like ancient times and moving up to like maybe World War One. I don't even know. World War Two. I don't know. They each span like a certain amount of time, and there's all sorts of different cards, and they're basically different action spaces that you can put on your board. So you have like a bunch of spaces on your board that start with some basic actions at the beginning of the game. Your resources are going to be things like like stone is like a generic resource. You have money, stone, knowledge, which is like books. There's like a fourth one. They're just military points.
Yeah, it's military.
Anyway, so you're basically going to have your workers, and you're going to be moving them to different spots and going for different things. So like, you can go for military, and then when you have a war, if you have more military than other people, then you get to get some points. Food, that's the one I completely forgot. The important thing to human civilization, food. And so you're going to be going around and buying the different cards. So there's going to be a whole bunch of them available for different prices, and you're going to be purchasing them and putting them into your tableau, and then you can put your workers on them in order to generate. And the more workers, the more things that are generated at those spaces. And so, like, you might go for getting a lot of stone, or you might go for getting a lot of food, or a lot of military points. But the sort of interesting thing is, so at the end of the round, the end of an age, there's 4 of them, basically 4 rounds in the game. Everyone has to suffer some sort of like an event that happens, and so that might be like there's like a famine, and so everyone has to pay like X number of food. You have to pay for upkeep, so as you buy more workers, you start with like a bunch of workers that aren't available to you at the beginning of the game. As you buy more workers, you have to pay for those every round, and it gets pretty expensive to feed them. And then there's different things like if you're ahead on knowledge, you can get victory points. But kind of the unique thing is like basically everything becomes victory points at the end of the game because you sum together all your stuff, right? I think. Or maybe I'm thinking of the solo mode because that's how it works in the solo mode. It's been a hot minute. But it's not a good looking game. I think it's a fun game. I enjoyed it. It's not quite as like complicated as something like Through the Ages or other. There are games that represent like Civilization a little bit better, but it's still fun. You're building up your little economy, and you're doing your best to get the most points. I will say this has a very good solo mode. It's very simple, and if the main game doesn't work that way for victory points, the solo mode definitely does work. Yeah, you do. I think you do sum everything in the because that's one of the things I like about it is it rewards like all playstyles basically evenly, where you just need to generate a lot of things. It doesn't really matter and there are some nuances, so it's not just like everything is the same and meaningless. But by the end of the game, like basically everything gets converted into points. Some of your buildings are worth points, things like that. But yeah, it's a relatively simple game. It's not good looking. I wish they would make a new edition of this that just had new artwork and new graphic design, because the box art looks fine, honestly. The box art looks better than the whole rest of the game. The rest of it looks like it was drawn in like MS Paint or something. It's really bad. It's very, very childish looking. No offense to whoever did the art for that, but whoever did the cover of the box, pay them to do the rest of the cards. But yeah.
I think mine's up a little bit higher. I had it like generally in this area.
I just like a lot of like worker placement-y games, so this one just kind of like moved down a little bit. But I do want to get the expansion for this because it's basically just more cards and more nations you can play as, which I think will be fun. I want to do America. But I really wish they would make it look better because it does not look good. And to make the expansion available not in the UK because that's where it is. Anyway, yeah, that's my number 83. 73.
Alright. Number 72 is going to be New Angeles for me. So.
Oh. How could you, Sam? Go on.
This game is a very weird game, I guess I'd say generally. The main mechanics of it aren't really what bring it out. I think we talked about it probably. I think previously at some point.
Yeah.
Basically, generally, it's the premise of it becomes like the argument side of it. That's the most fun part. Mm-hmm. The rest of it is like there's a map, and you have like different resources like androids and things like that, and you have to get resources to complete missions, I believe, at like a certain point. And then there's like criminals that go through the city and like guards to protect it. But basically, the entirety of the game is you have your card, your hand of cards. Each player has the hand of cards, and you play the. Basically, it'll go around. One person can play a card, and then the other players have a choice to like counter offer with different cards, and the cards have basically like what you do for the turn. Mm-hmm. So then you'll end up with 2 cards out, and then all of the players get to vote on it by playing their other cards, or generally just like they play their cards to vote on the 2 different issues, and whichever one ends up passing is what you do during the turn to like place things. So like you can place like new androids or whatever. You could like place the new guards. I don't remember what they're called, but there's the different things you can place.
PriveSec, because they're private security.
There you go.
Because everything is abbreviated in the cyberpunk universe.
So yeah, so like what you place or like doing different things. There's a lot of different things on the different cards because it's a lot of cards. But that's basically what you do during the turn. It's like what you kind of as a group taking as an action. And then the player who wins also gets like a special reward card, and they can even use that as bribery because that's a large portion of the game is also bribery. So like you can choose to like give your cards out as bribery. You can pretty much do
you
whatever
can bribe
you want.
with literally anything in the game. I think.
And there's like the reward cards add like a special like bonus to the player that has them. And then basically an interesting like scoring mechanic is each of you are playing as corporations, and you'll have like a secret who it is that you're trying to be higher than. So like. If it says like you need to be higher than the blue corporation, you just have to be higher than them on the points. So you could technically basically have pretty much everybody win, except the Federalist. There's one goal for the person who plays as the Federalist, which they basically just have to. There's a special track that they have to. Yeah, they have to fill. But other than that, you could basically have technically any number of players win from one person to like
and you don't know what everybody else is. That's the trick. Is like you have a rival corporation, but you don't know who's representing that rival.
If you somehow manage to like get in the correct order on the victory points track, you could somehow manage to get everybody to win except the Federalist.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I really like this game. This is definitely one, as I've said in I know at least one other video. Thought I was going to hate it. Mm-hmm. The game is not the game. So like the pieces are just there to be something to argue about, because you're basically, you take turns proposing a thing. Someone can counter. There could be at most one other counter proposal, but you're basically like mega corporations trying to decide how your city is governed. So you basically have to come up with, it's like almost an improv game. You have to come up with reasoning why your card, that your policy that you're basically trying to enact is best for the city, and they shouldn't choose the other guys. They should choose yours. And then maybe you'll give them a victory point or something because you get points for like getting stuff selected. And you're like, well, I'll give you like a couple points. I'll split the points with you. Or I'll split the you can have the reward, but I get to keep the points. And so you get to choose like all of that. It's all on the table for bartering. And it leads to some like really fun interactions because you're like desperately trying to get people to buy your card or choose your card, vote for your card, because like you secretly need that thing to happen in order for you to get more victory points or something. Because you have like private agendas too. So you have not only like every round you get like you draw like a new, basically like a private agenda. So there's things on the board that need to be met. So there's like demands. So like different goods, like, alcohol, I forget what all the technology, there's a bunch of different like tracks, and they'll get randomly selected every round. Like they'll be set at different spots. And that demand needs to be met. So part of your policy selection is meeting that demand. But if you can get those to line up with your like secret objective, you can sometimes like score extra points. And so there's a lot of really fun interactions. Everyone's like trying to backstab each other. It feels like really thematic too, because again, like you're all corporations none of you except for the Federalist wants the city to go to crap. So you're all like, you have like common goals, right? You have the common goals of making sure like needs are met and whatever, because that's what the drinks, food, whatever, needs are met on that regard. But you're also all trying to like backstab each other whenever you can. But you have to work together. If you don't work together, the Federalist wins. So it works really well. This one's a lot higher for me.
I mean, I definitely feel like I want to play it again. because I feel like we had it where like the Federalists seemed a little bit
Yeah,
easy to win, but we also don't.
I don't know. He
That's
went
most
from
of what
0
we'll
to
play the game.
60 really quick. So,
Yeah.
but even still, I just had fun. Like I just
Yeah,
had
for
fun
sure.
arguing, and you'll start to make like like the improv stuff. Like people
Yeah.
will start to make like
We'll
joke
make, like,
alliances
alliances,
and
yeah.
political parties and stuff,
Exactly.
like fictional political parties, and it's just a lot of fun. Like again, it's not a very like mechanical game. But the pieces are there in order for you to tell a story, and so if you put things into this game, you'll get good things out, kind of thing. So if you're playing with the right group, but yeah, I really like this one, so much so that I bought it. My 82, 72. I don't know why I keep wanting to go back to the 80s. We should be far away from the 80s. It's too much. Is Elder Sign. So this one's a bit lower. I'm a big fan of the Lovecraft theme. I know some people, it's a very like divisive thing because there's so many board games that have like even outside of Fantasy Flight, there's just a ton of crap because it's a public domain thing. So anybody can make a Lovecraft themed board game. But I like this one quite a bit. I think it is the lowest ranked of all of them. But this is essentially Arkham the dice game is basically how it works, and so you have the base game is like museum locations, and everybody there's like a shared pool of green dice, and you can put your character, you have like a little chip that represents your character, and all the characters have different health and sanity and different abilities and whatever, but you're basically trying to prevent an elder god from awakening. And if you fail to do that, then you have to fight them and hopefully win, and they're usually pretty hard to fight. So you kind of want to seal them away before you can, which you do by getting elder signs. So there's all these, six locations
Six, yeah.
that you can go to in the museum. That's just the base game. Things kind of changed with the expansions. But you put your token on one, you say, I'm going there, and you basically attempt to match dice faces to what is shown there, and sometimes it has to be in a specific order, sometimes it doesn't matter, but you roll all the green dice. You can use items and things to add red and yellow dice. In the base game, there's also like curse and blessing dices and some of the expansions and stuff, but the basic game, you start with all the green dice. I think there's like 5 or 6 of them, and the way it works is you roll, and if you can match one whole row of the icons you need, it's usually like 2 or 3 rows of icons that you need. Some of the harder ones are more. But if you can get all of the dice that match that, you take those out of the pool, and it's considered a success. If you can only match like part of the row, that's considered a failure, and then you have to, if you want to roll again, you have to remove one of the dice from the pool and roll the remaining dice. So you basically, you have quite a few times you can roll, but each time you fail, you're basically losing dice from the pool, and even when you succeed, you're technically losing them because they have to like go on to the things to match the shapes. There are ways to like store dice, so you can like, if you have a good result but you can't quite finish one, you can like keep that for later and then put it in later. And yeah, so you go around, you can defeat monsters, and then you get them as trophies. And then you can use those to like get upgrades, new items, new weapons, things like that. But it's a very simple game. It's not super long. The rulebook is terrible, but once you know how to play the game, it's pretty simple and straightforward, which is good. And so I like breaking this one out every now and again. The expansions are also kind of nice. They're all kind of self-contained. They don't really add much rules overhead, and so you have like, there's a deep sea one, there's an Arctic one, there's an Egyptian one, there's one that turns it into Arkham Horror. But yeah, no, it's a fun game. I definitely recommend getting the Unseen Forces expansion if you do have it, because basically that expansion adds almost no rules other than the bless and curse dice, and it adds a bunch more variety to the basic like item spells and things like that they're pretty samey in the base game. Like, it's pretty much, you can keep dice, you get a red dice, or you get a yellow dice. That's pretty much all the cards in the base game. It adds a lot more cards that give you, like, effects and, like, more interesting things. The Unseen Forces should just be in the base game kind of thing. But, yeah.
I enjoy this game a lot, too. It might be higher, I think. I mean, it's definitely not lower unless it's off the list.
Unless it's gone.
Yeah, I like it because it's, like, I feel like it's like the perfect difficulty too. Like it makes it difficult to get the things, but usually not too difficult to finish things and like. Yeah.
And even the really difficult ones, usually if you prepare with items and things, you'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. it finds a sweet spot of like difficulty for a dice game. Because like yes, it's random, but at the same time it like finds a way to make it.
There's some
nice,
element of skill, but there's also that still like you can just do poorly and things like that. But yeah, it's fun, and then you can pick it up for super cheap. So.
The final.
81.
Yes.
71.
Yes. The final game for this video will be number 71, which for me is Tidal Blades. So this game is basically you play as a different like anthropomorphic creature. It's like I don't know, crocodiles, just a chameleon man, I think. I don't know. And you're basically moving around the board. In like three or four sections that have different actions on them, and you're doing the actions to get dice of different levels, which you can like level up to get better dice, and you're fighting. There's like monsters you can fight, and you can get points from the actions, and you're basically kind of like trying to fight each other to some extent, not like actually fight, but trying to beat each other, I guess, kind of score higher. You get resources. We only played this once. At the very least, we want to play it again. Yes, that's true.
Yeah, I'd play it again.
Yeah.
It's got great squishy little, like, what is it? There's shells, which are hard blue plastic.
Yeah.
And then there's squishy fruit.
Yeah.
Orange fruit. Those are like
Squishy
deluxe
resources.
components, but...
Yeah, and the giant like dice tray thing.
Yes. Like the Coliseum.
Also deluxe. It makes the box like that big.
Yeah. I didn't hate it when we played it. I felt like it was just like average.
Mm-hmm.
I like the theme, kind of the like sea creatures that because it's kind of convoluted, but you're like they hold like basically like an Olympics like championship, and so you're all contestants, and then. There's also these like horrible sea monsters that come and attack the like town that you're in. So you're competing like in the Olympics kind of thing, but then you need to also like collectively defend against these creatures that are coming through, which is weird. But the dice stuff is kind of fun because you level up the dice and the dice actually get more specific. So they get better sides, but they become more specific. There's 4 different like like symbols or whatever, and as you get to like level 3 and 4, level 3 maybe is the highest, level 3 dice or whatever, they're like just those sides basically. Yeah. So you're basically can really control the average and the odds of rolling specific ones. It's interesting. I want to play it again. I didn't even put it on my list. Like I don't know. I just felt like it was like. I don't know. Something was off. Like I just felt like it was like perfectly just average.
Yeah, I wouldn't even really know where to categorize it. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, because it's like a worker placement, but you also have the dice combat stuff, which is like what you're leveling up, and you're doing. You can do like different. There's cards that are like challenges, basically like physical challenges, feats, like, and then you can like level up your character and get like more symbols of. So, like, because that's right, because every character has, like, 4 dials, and they start on certain ones, and so you can, like, move those up, like, how many dice you refresh, and, like, there's all sorts of, like, ways you can level up your character and go for different things in that regard. Mm-hmm. I did back, because they're making, like, a co-op dungeon crawler set in the same universe, and I backed that, so we'll see how that is, but that looks fun. It uses, like, a book. I like the books. Like Jaws of the Lion uses. I like the books, but I don't know. Yeah, so I just didn't include it on my list, but I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I felt like it was a lot of like pieces for what it was. Maybe that's the big thing. It's just like a lot of setup with all the boards, and it's not just one board. Like each one it like interlocks. All right, my number 71 is Keyforge, which you've already talked about, I believe. So, brief summary, Keyforge is a head-to-head, like, lane battler. Apparently it's made by the same guy who made Magic the Gathering. I did not realize that. Apparently that's, like, his shtick, is lane battlers. 2-player lane battlers. Did not realize that until today. There's some other game he made too that I was like, oh, that totally makes sense. But basically, the gimmick with Keyforge is that each player has a AI-generated deck. So human beings make the cards and input them into this database, and then a computer crunches the numbers of how how good certain cards are and whatever, and it creates these decks, every one of which is unique. So if you buy 10,000 Keyforge packs, not a single one of them should be 100% the same. They should be, at the very least, slightly different. Which is an interesting gimmick. So there's no deck building, obviously, because all the backs of the cards are like printed with whatever deck they belong to, so you can't get them mixed up. And there's some cool things with that. Like, it's definitely a gimmick. There's some interesting things with that. It's similar to something like Unmatched. I love deck building. I like constructing my own deck, but sometimes it's nice to just grab a pre-constructed deck and play a game. So there's no like building or like theoretically not as much, you're just better at deck building. You just built a better deck. Obviously, there's an aftermarket for people who have like better Keyforge decks and charge you more money for them. But like technically speaking, they should be all relatively balanced. And you basically every deck is constructed of basically 3 factions. There's a bunch of different factions in the game, but every deck has 3 of those factions in it. And on your turn, you pick a faction at the beginning of your turn, and you can only play and activate cards from that faction, which is also kind of a neat gimmick. So, if you look at your hand and you have 2 of a certain faction, but only 1 of each of the other ones, well, you probably want to play the one that you have 2 of, because then you basically get more plays. So if you can kind of wait and get a bunch of the same faction, then you can play all of those in one turn, and you can activate all of your allies that are that faction. So you can, play down allies, and then the next turn when it comes back around, you can activate all the allies that are of that faction, which is kind of neat. The goal of the game basically is to play down allies to defend yourself and to forge keys, hence the name of the game. Every key costs a base amount of 6 Ember, which you can get through various means of either you can use your allies that you've played instead of attacking. You can like exhaust them to I forget what the harvest, something like that. You can harvest with them to get an Ember. Once you have 6 Ember at the beginning of your turn, you can only forge keys at the beginning of your turn, I believe, right? Yes. Yeah. Because you declare it at the end of your turn. Beginning of your turn, if you have enough, and the price of a key can go up and down based on card effects, but it's 6 by default. Once you have enough, you can forge that key and flip it over. And the goal is to be the first player to forge 3 keys. It's very simple. It's easy to teach. Like I said, it's kind of nice. Just grab a deck. Hey, I don't like this one. Well, grab a different one. I like these factions. Well, here's a deck for you. You can also find it really cheap. I've gotten basically most of the decks I have were $5 a piece. Bradley just did the same. He bought like a bunch of stuff for it. So definitely don't spend. I know so this game was also technically like out of print or between publishers because Fantasy Flight mysteriously somehow lost the algorithm that built decks. Allegedly, but allegedly someone, a frustrated employee, destroyed it or something. I don't know how they didn't have backups. I don't know what happened. Not accusing anyone, but somehow the algorithm that built it, so it was like out of print for a while. No one was really making it. But Ghost Galaxy, the company who originally created, the founder who originally created Fantasy Flight now runs Ghost Galaxy, and they just bought the rights for Keyforge and are creating a new cycle, which was just on GameFound. I don't know if it's still, that was loud. I don't know if it's still on GameFound. It's a little expensive, but if you're interested in getting into the game, it's a good way to do it. I think the cheapest pledge was like $65. So that's why I say I bought all my stuff for like $5 a piece. So I didn't end up backing that, but the game is coming back. So if you are into it, now's a good time to jump back in. Anything to say? You already had it, so. All right, well, that does it for part 3. Boy, still a lot of parts left, but we're getting there slowly but surely. Thanks for watching. If there's any games on here that you think we should give another shot, or that we maybe missed, let us know in the comments. And until next time, have a great day.